The ongoing suffering in Gaza is shifting long-held attitudes at an ever-accelerating rate. Britain's Keir Starmer, the latest world leader to ratchet up pressure on Israel.
This is the moment to act. So today, as part of this process towards peace, I can confirm the UK will recognise the State of Palestine by the United Nations General Assembly in September, unless the Israeli government takes substantive steps to end the appalling situation in Gaza.
World leaders are increasingly focused not just on what is unfolding in Gaza, but how it is impacting domestic communities. Here in Australia, police announced the arrest of a man for his alleged role in the torching of Melbourne's Adass Israel synagogue in December. Another reminder of how the conflict is tearing at Australia's social cohesion.
Most Australians who don't follow this on a day-to-day basis, what they want is for innocent lives to not be lost, for people to stop killing each other. You know, the young Jewish boy or girl going to the local school should not be harassed because of who they are. They are not responsible for what is going on in Gaza. And Arab Australians or Muslims are not responsible for what Hamas did.
The Prime Minister is preparing the ground for an historic shift. Australia will recognise a Palestinian state. At this point, it's a matter of when and how. The crisis in Gaza and Israel's growing international isolation is breaking down resistance within Labor's ranks.
We walked with our parents down a path that belonged to a people always forced to leave for the next place.
Among the new crop of government MPs making their first speeches this week was Bassem Abdo. His family was forced to flee Kuwait to Jordan during the first Gulf War.
We belong to a people who are always the first to be made strangers in their own homes, simply because we were Palestinian.
Abdo has vowed to push the Palestinian cause among his colleagues. A fresh voice in Labor's decades-old debate over Israel and its occupation of the territories.
The recognition of a Palestinian state has been a long and difficult journey for Labor.
Former Minister Craig Emerson began his political career as a close confidant to Bob Hawke and visited Jerusalem in the 1980s with the Labor Prime Minister, just months before he faced his third election.
He showed me the Garden of Gethsemane and, of course, the wall, otherwise known as the Wailing Wall. We stopped the car and he said, "Mate, have you got a pen and a bit of paper?" And I gave him a pen and a bit of paper, and you could put your wish in a crack in the wall. And he wrote a historic third term because we were going to a federal election a bit later in 1987.
The late Prime Minister is often regarded warmly within the Jewish community as an example of fealty to Israel among Labor leaders. From Doc Everett's pivotal role in the formation of the Israeli state in 1948 through Bob Hawke's close relationship with leaders of the Israeli Labor Party. But Craig Emerson argues Hawke was the first to put Labor on the path this Prime Minister is following.
He didn't make strong statements in the early part of his Prime Ministership about a two-state solution. However, he did believe, as we were going to Israel in early 1987, in a two-state solution. There's no doubt about that.
Labor has long had its fair share of internal dust-ups over support for the Palestinian cause. Its activist base has long clashed against a staunchly pro-Israel faction. In 2012, Prime Minister Julia Gillard triggered a cabinet revolt over her determination to vote in the UN against Palestine being given observer status. Craig Emerson was among those who talked her out of it.
Julia said, "This issue has arisen and I have decided that Labor will abstain." And we were, thank goodness.
Last year, Australia backed a UN motion to grant observer status to the Palestinian delegation. By then, the government was already preparing the ground for potential recognition, saying it should be put on the table early rather than at the end of a peace process.
The simple truth is that a secure and prosperous future for both Israelis and Palestinians will only come with a two-state solution. Recognition of each other's right to exist. a Palestinian state alongside the State of Israel.
The Prime Minister is still waiting for the right moment to act. He's told colleagues privately that a declaration of statehood can only be done once. He would want it to have as much positive impact as possible. Overnight, the government signed a joint statement with 14 other countries, welcoming promises by the Palestinian Authority that it accepts a future state would be demilitarised.
If you're going to advance genuinely a two-state solution, then you are going to need to have not just the legitimate aspirations of the Palestinians for their own state, but Israel needs to be recognised by the states around the Middle East. I've been serious about the rights of Palestinians and them having justice since, well before I came to this place.
The opposition says recognising Palestine before there is peace would be a mistake.
It is not for Australia, before there is any negotiation between the relevant parties, to be recognising a Palestinian state. Hamas, a terrorist organisation, should have no role to play in any future Palestinian state.
In this week's caucus meeting, the Prime Minister quoted Nelson Mandela's line that a thing can seem impossible until it's done. Determining when and how to make such a historic step as recognising Palestine will be difficult. But nothing about this has ever been simple.
It's not an easy issue. If it was so easy, it would have been solved decades ago.